Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Tuesday, August 6th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is beautiful energy for Leo season. We have here our Strength card. A lot of this work that we're seeing right now, and I'm not surprised to see it because we saw that yesterday there was a lot of work that was being done in the space or place of self-compassion. That ability of remembering and reminding oneself that the compassion that you bring forth to others, you also need to give some to yourself in the process. Masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency. A lot of this work that we're seeing right now is helping to navigate spaces or places that may be creating that modality or those moments of energetic frustration. And why are we seeing that this work is so valuable and important at this time? For masculine and feminine energy, being able to navigate through those circumstances or situations, a lot of it is becoming that sense of strengthening within one's own self and holding towards one's own energetic standards. Now, for feminine energy, a lot of this work that we've been seeing at this time is the effective result of, again, recognizing and identifying that message that the compassion that you give to others, it is a gift and it needs to start with the self. So if these are modalities wherein the feminine may have had that tendency of, again, experiencing points of frustration and then over giving forth from them, feminine energy taking new energetic approaches, but also navigating that with a sense of compassion, not just towards those around them, but also to themselves as well. A lot of this energy of the feminine right now is working on that sense of resilience and energetic strength. And a lot of it is also coming through in the space or state of confidence, right? Because a lot of the feminine energy in this modality right now is working through the confidence center, because what do we see occurs in those experiences wherein, again, you're able to blend compassion with resilience. That could be strength. That could be defined as strength. Well, for masculine energy right now, a lot of that same work that we're seeing to a certain extent, if these are modalities or experiences wherein, again, you may have been more overly volatile or more overly reactive in the past, recognizing and identifying those changes from within, seeing them to a certain degree, identifying them, doing that work. This is a lot of the masculine energy that is taking new approaches towards navigating rough territory. But again, from the state or space of energetic compassion, a lot of masculine energy right now is doing that work in terms of redefining what strength feels like towards them. Because for a lot of the masculine energy, not letting oneself close one's own emotional center as a point of strength, but almost coming into that ability to, again, feel what one is feeling, but then also build into a point of resilience within it. A lot of the masculine energy deep within the divine union frequency right now is learning to effectively inhabit that sense of the heart expansion process, feeling that heart expansion that's almost allowing for that abundance of compassion to come forth in spaces and places where you may have been more easily shut down or closed off, as opposed to allowing oneself to feel the full expanse of what you're feeling. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, as we mentioned and defined over the last few days, a lot of that energy was doing work, particularly between those double Capricorn full moons, in solidifying and building forth into a stronger energetic connection. But what were we identifying was occurring in relationality to building forth into a stronger energetic connection? Were these connections that they were trying to fix something by bringing it into a different place? No, these were energies that were doing that work of holding on to the intrinsic nature of something, even as they process through into something that feels like a deepening of an energetic commitment. And we saw and identified that there was a little bit of that clumsiness there that we were seeing within that frequency, because for a lot of the energy doing that work right now, recognizing and identifying, feeling that sense of coming to know someone in a deeper way. That's that amplification of energetic strength that we're identifying is occurring here, because this is almost the energy that is now feeling the ability to even to strengthen their energetic connection even further by means of having it grounded or moving it into a space or place that allows that ability to plan towards the long-term goals and the long-term possibilities. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, a lot of this work that we're seeing right now in separation is in relationality to, again, building into strength and confidence of one's own self. Why are we seeing that this is occurring right now for so much of the energy that's in separation? If these were modalities and experiences wherein we recognize and identify that the energy was going through that ability of building into the potentiality of a new energetic connection, and we see even now, there's some of this work, again, there's a lot of this continuation of that process that's occurring for energy and separation right now. A lot of the energy this retrograde period is working on their own state or space of energetic resilience, because for a lot of the energy right now in separation, as we identified and defined, that ability of trying to go through an energetic obstacle, something that felt like it was a practical, tangible obstruction point at a moment of building into a new energetic connection. A lot of this energy right now in separation is receiving a point of clarity that's helping to redefine anything that may have been experienced in a past in a new way. And that is difficult work. That is difficult to unpack to a certain degree, because we see even now that for a lot of that energy doing that work, it is the identification point in feeling that sense of confidence in relationality to how far you've come. For masculine and feminine energy, different experiences, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For a lot of the feminine energy right now, experiencing or going through those modalities, we see that is that moment that even towards right now, that identification point, seeing the intentionality, seeing the full strength to a certain extent of what masculine can bring forth towards you. This is what is clarifying and clearing anything from the energetic past, wherein you may have felt like you were building onto that point of confusion. And for a lot of the feminine energy right now, that feels, I want to say, energetically empowering to a certain degree, because that's that moment that you're being able to release anything that you were carrying that wasn't your energetic karma to begin with. So for a lot of the feminine energy, that ability of redefining something that was experienced and feeling that sense of vitality in some of the connections that you're building right now in separation, I want to say there's a lot of release and relief that is potentially coming through those energetic connections, because this is the feminine energy that is feeling a lot of that expansion point and seeing and recognizing masculine that's coming towards them with a lot of that strength or a lot of that authenticity. Now, this may be feeling like, again, a little bit energetically rigorous for some of the energy in separation right now, because that point of energetic frustration, identifying and recognizing something that feels like it brings clarity. Like this is almost a lot of the energy of the feminine that feels that point of reinforcing their own energetic standards prior to moving forward from this point. And for a lot of this energy right now, we see even now, especially if these were modalities wherein, again, something was feeling too emotionally overwhelming for the feminine. This is a lot of the feminine energy that is processing that emotional overwhelm to recognize and define what those energetic standards are that can potentially change, that would allow something to be able to move into a space or place of healing. Because we see even now that for a lot of the energy right now of feminine, if there's connections towards masculine that you feel like are very energetically strong, but the tangible obstacles are such that it kind of creates that space or place wherein you're feeling that emotionality in terms of what can be navigated. Like there's a lot of introspection that's potentially occurring right now for the energy in separation, because a lot of this is, again, a bit of a heart opening process. While for masculine energy in separation right now, a lot of this work that we're seeing in separation is, again, that same sense of energetic vitality that's potentially coming towards circumstances or situations. And again, what's so beautiful about some of this work that we're seeing right now is feeling and recognizing and identifying Again, if these were circumstances or situations, moving towards feminine where it felt like you couldn't put your best foot forward. But again, navigating those circumstances, trying to come into that place of space of energetic easement, the ability of seeing a feminine that wasn't coming into that state of reactivity, wasn't taking something energetically personally, was recognizing and identifying those obstacles and appreciating the work that you were bringing forth in trying to alleviate them. We see even now that there's a lot of that healing and empowerment that's coming towards masculine at this time, because the ability to recognize and identify and to have that feeling of energetic appreciation from the feminine. We see even now that there's a lot of energy. I have to stress this. Even if in separation, seeing the strength and vitality of ideal potential counterparts and what someone can bring forth, it's allowing for a lot of that karmic closure in relationality to something from the past. And a lot of this work that we're seeing that is occurring right now, because I need to stress this, I know that these retrograde periods often bring back a lot of the past. And I know you guys say, like, I know you're like, why must this happen? Like, why must this happen? But the reason it happens is so you can perceive something with the amplification in recognizing how far you have come. So we see even now that there's a lot of this energy that is potentially even looking back on past situations and scenarios, and you may be identifying and recognizing spaces or places wherein you presently would have taken a different approach to experiences from the past. I'm going to say this again. If you're experiencing this, if you're having a moment where you're looking back on a past experience and you're feeling frustration to yourself because you weren't as energetically strong as you are now, that is inner child healing. Okay? That is inner child healing, because again, you cannot energetically fault yourself if something that you look back on in the past, you felt like you weren't energetically strong enough to navigate in some way or shape or form, because that shows the level and degree of strength that you've been able to bring forward now. It shows the fact that you've come into that modality of change to such an extent that if you're, and this is why we were articulating about being compassionate to the self, you have to have that compassion to the self, because it shows how far you have energetically come. Second card in our 5-card spread for today. Can I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. We love to see this. We have here our Lovers card. So I need to stress this, even in separation right now, even in separation, we are seeing that there's a lot of the energy that is in separation that is redefining their own energetic standards in relationality to partnership, because that ability of identifying and laying those energetic standards going forward, that is that experience wherein, again, and we like to see this, that's that modality where one of two different things are happening, right? If you're doing the work, you're going to have spaces of expansion where you may look back on the past and say to yourself, I wish I could have done something better. I wish I could have done something differently, right? Because that ability of identifying that is the gift of the present, because it shows you how far you have come on your own energetic journey. So we see even now that there's something that is coming towards a lot of the energy in separation, and a lot of it may potentially have to do with energetic counterpart energy that is also doing that work, that is also being energetically mindful to a certain extent, that is also paying a lot of close attention towards their own path work and processes of the past, being able to, again, articulate and define what one feels like you would change ideally versus where you find yourself now. A lot of this energy in separation, like it's a little, I want to say it's a little bit of that energetic breakthrough that's occurring right now, because again, so long as you don't allow yourself to come into a reactive space as you navigate a lot of this retrograde energy, a lot of this work that we're seeing that is occurring right now in separation is redefining what it feels like to be in an energetic connection that feels like it is restorative, feels like it is strong, feels like it is coming into that space of energetic balance for masculine and feminine energy. But it's requiring a lot of work right now. So I'm going to say it again. I don't know how many times I have to say this. If you're hitting those modalities where, and again, you're experiencing those places of the past, rather than letting that be a crash point for you, rather than allowing that to be a moment of energetic heartbreak, having that moment of, again, like understanding and seeing the value of the energetic lessons learned. A lot of the energy in separation right now is allowing that to like pave that pathwork in experiences going forward that are helping define the energetic standards in relationality to what they're experiencing and what they're perceiving feels like a balanced energetic partnership. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're seeing that is occurring right now, coming into divine union, is navigating spaces and places wherein we recognize and identify that a lot of this energy right now was doing a lot of that work specifically and particularly because they were trying to build into that space of being able to energetically know one another in this capacity and in this degree. So you'll recognize and identify, again, if these were those experiences where, and again, during the double Capricorn full moons, there was that movement of taking something and feeling that anxiety because it wasn't, and a lot of the energy, having that experience of being like, wow, this is like the opposite of what I've experienced before. Because if these were experiences in the past where something wasn't energetically working and you were trying to like make it into something that worked by like raising the volume, if you will, if you're now building into those experiences or those places or spaces where you're able to take something intrinsic and move it into the deepening of an energetic connection. And now you're starting to feel all of those like those little awkward moments, if you will, getting to know one another to an even deeper degree. A lot of this energy is building into that space or place of identifying and recognizing like that experience that allows you to like, again, it's almost like the energy that feels like they're strengthening in that energetic connection. They're building into that energetic connection in a way that feels like it is reinforcing it, even if it's clumsy, because this is the energy that was moving forward in that way to be able to facilitate and do that work together. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union, a lot of this work for the energy deep within the divine union right now is working through those processes and spaces and places of compassion for the self. Because for a lot of this energy deep within the divine union right now, feeling that sense of, again, that amplification point in being able to have those modalities wherein you can articulate what those anxieties are. Having those experiences of, again, speaking towards one's own frustrations, speaking towards one's own uncertainties, and having that space or modality wherein you feel that sense of being able to have the energetic breakthrough to such an extent that allows you that modality of feeling the, again, these are energies deep within the divine union frequency right now that articulate upon their anxieties. They articulate upon their fears as opposed to reacting towards them. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy, navigating those spaces and places to a certain extent, building into that experience and allowing that to be a moment that energetically fortifies, we see even now like a lot of that energy is just feeling that stabilization point in modality and in recognition of the counterpart. Third card in our 5-card spread for today, we have here our 3 of Pentacles in its reversal. So for masculine and feminine energy, deep within the divine union frequency right now, a lot of this work that we're energetically seeing within the divine union frequency is navigating spaces and places wherein it feels like there's a lot of openness in terms of, again, taking new energetic approaches to circumstances or situations, allowing that modality of energetic breakthrough, allowing that space or place of redefining like what that groundwork is. So a lot of the energy right now, deep within the divine union, feeling that experience of, again, having that, I want to say there's a lot of work that's being done right now within this retrograde cycle in relationality to building new plans going forward. So a lot of that work in terms of preparation, a lot of that work in relationality to identifying and recognizing what those plans feel like, what that looks like to a certain extent. And for a lot of that work right now, this is actually nice because we saw that there was a little bit of that work prior to coming into the divine union that felt like you were kind of like building from the ground. Like I know that pre-retrograde period was feeling very difficult, but now we see in a way some of this energy that's coming in for this particular retrograde, it's allowing for new possibilities. It's allowing for new opportunities. And what's interesting about this retrograde especially is this is like a groundwork retrograde. It's allowing those energetic standards to plant the seeds for what you are for what you're potentially building into as it relates to being able to build forward to a certain extent. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're seeing right now, this is the energy that did that work through the Capricorn full moon season to allow for that ability of having some of that work begin. And you'll recognize that that's like, I told you, a lot of that work between the Capricorn full moon, it was like trying to move something into something so that you could have that ability of building forward in terms of the plans going forward, so that you could have the ability of laying that groundwork. So even here, this is that why we see that if the energy coming into divine union right now feels a little energetically clumsy, it's like the clumsiness that one feels as you are rebuilding something. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, a lot of this energy that is in separation during this time, this is a lot of energy in separation that is doing a lot of karmic closure via the identifying and feeling to a certain degree, like what a balanced energetic partnership feels like. And for a lot of the energy within separation right now, feeling and experiencing that. And I have to stress this, even in some modalities right now, where there may not be an ability to move forward in some degree. Because we see even now that these are energies that are doing everything they can to try to find some kind of like way to make something energetically work. Or there's energies right now that are moving into deep friendships, deep partnerships, recognizing and identifying what that looks like. A lot of the energy in the process is just like, it's like decluttering or having a lot of that karmic clearing, if you will, because this is the energy that's almost like being able to like moving away from a lot of those experiences from the past. Because when you feel that sense of recognition in relationality to what you can receive from an energetic partnership, well, a lot of that energy is almost looking back on some experiences from the past and saying, I can't energetically go back there, right? Because that's the energy. That's the energy. And that's what we mean about that sense of closure to a certain extent, because a lot of the energy in separation is redefining what they can expect from an energetic partner. For masculine and feminine energy, for a lot of the masculine energy in this modality right now, a lot of that work that we're seeing has to do with, again, seeing masculine energy coming towards you with intentionality, with authenticity. For a lot of the masculine energy, this is seeing that feminine energy that doesn't take something energetically personally, holds to that point of energetic resilience to a certain extent. And this is allowing the groundwork for either, again, this is either energy that again is moving because of the if the energetic obstacles feel like they're too difficult to navigate. Even here, it feels like that gift of receiving something and saying to another, thank you, because you've helped me reframe something from the energetic past. While for others right now within that experience, a lot of that work that we're potentially seeing that is occurring right now is in relationality to circumstances or experiences wherein some of that energy is still doing what they can, almost trying to articulate, almost trying to build into those plans in a certain way that is allowing like for some kind of energetic breakthrough to occur. There's a lot of processing that's happening within this retrograde period. This is a big planning retrograde. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we see here the Wheel of Fortune in its reversal. And it's requiring a level or degree of energetic patience to a certain extent. We're just seeing this here. There's some patience that needs to be navigated in some of these experiences, specifically and particularly because it's that retrograde energy. It's that retrograde energy. It slows things down. It requires an ability to kind of energetically trust the process to a certain extent. It requires that ability of kind of like really holding towards like what one is trying to build forth towards. And for a lot of this energy right now, that ability, it's going to feel like a bit of that slowdown. But what occurs in those experiences wherein you recognize that there's a slowdown? Well, it can be very productive. It can allow for a lot of productivity. So we see even now that taking some of that energy, so long as you're not coming into that modality of feeling reactive as it relates to some of that energetic lag, but instead utilizing the time productively, letting it kind of motivate and empower you to kind of carve out new energetic pathways. We see even now that for a lot of the energy in separation, that ability to do so, it's creating a sense of energetic patience for energy in separation, because this is the energy that is like articulating and defining they're saying to me, it's like quality versus quantity. It's like the energy in separation that's looking for the quality of an energetic connection and being able to have the energetic patience in relationality to building forth towards it. While for masculine, and that work even here, that's why we see that if there's something here that feels like there's tangible obstacles, we're recognizing and identifying that a lot of that work, there's a bit of that, I want to say a little bit of that energetic contemplation that is potentially occurring around those spaces and places, specifically and particularly because this is the energy that is like, I want to say like really navigating from that space in a place of trying to determine and identify a breakthrough point in relationality to, again, feeling the energetic connection of something that can change versus recognizing and identifying and feeling that sense or space of what it is that you have with a potential counterpart. So we see even now that there's a little bit of this like slowdown that's happening right now in separation, but this is a nice slowdown. This feels like a bit of an energetic easement point, because even if these are energies that are separating because the circumstances don't feel like there's something that is allowing for an achievement towards divine union, I need to articulate this. The compassion through which the energy is recognizing and valuing it, that's what's allowing a bit of that energetic breakthrough. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is that's coming into divine union, a lot of this energy is feeling and experiencing some of that energetic breakthrough. And a lot of it feels like there's a lot of planning here. There's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of this work that we see, because a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now is like building into those energetic standards to a certain extent. They're looking towards something in such a way that they're recognizing and identifying like what feels like it can energetically change. It's creating that space and place wherein there's some of that breakthrough that's energetically occurring here, because a lot of this energy being able to move into something that feels like the deepening of an energetic connection, it's now allowing for that point of breakthrough wherein, again, there's a little bit of that energetic clumsiness, but it's the clumsiness of getting to know the counterpart in a deeper way. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, this is feeling like a little bit more energetic unpacking to a certain extent. This is feeling like there's a lot of that work that we're seeing that is occurring right now, specifically and particularly due to a lot of the energy right now deep within the divine union, building forth into new energetic standards. And a lot of that energy building forth into those new energetic standards, it's qualitative. It's recognizing and determining like what that feels like. And a lot of that work that we're seeing is occurring right now has to potentially do in laying new groundwork, in building into those plans. But some of this energy does feel like it's a little bit frustrated, specifically because we're identifying and recognizing that for a lot of this here, that work, that frustration point, it's requiring, it's like it's a lot of planning is what I'm seeing. And a lot of it too has to do with, and I want to say, a lot of that emotional unpacking that's occurring in this experience right now. Because for a lot of the energy deep within that, having the counterpart through which you can articulate one's own doubts, one's own fears, one's own uncertainties, one's own anxieties, like that allows for a little bit of that like easement in relationality to feeling that similarity in terms of what is being energetically experienced versus what is being received. So we see even now, like a lot of that is almost, I want to see a lot of conversations towards like from counterpart to counterpart here in terms of navigating an obstacle to be able to articulate and define like what that potential breakthrough point is. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our 7 of Pentacles in its reversal. So for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of this work that we see is occurring has to do, I want to say, with building, like allowing, like not allowing one's own like frustration to move you off of like what it is that you're trying to create via with the counterpart. Because we see even now that like somewhat like this is the difficulty, like this is the difficulty of these retrograde periods. You feel that energetic frustration point. You feel that modality or that moment that creates a little bit of that friction, specifically due to a lot of the energy doing this work right now that is like, you know, building into new plans, new priorities. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy deep within the divine union, building into something, defining that, redefining like where it is that you're putting your own intention at this time. A lot of this work that we're seeing, it's like, I want to say, I wouldn't even be surprised if there's a lot of energy right now that's doing anything in relationality to decluttering or reorganization, because I feel like a lot of this energy is working right now to make something energetically easier. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, a lot of this work that we're seeing that is occurring coming into divine union right now has to do with that same process. Because for a lot of this energy, we saw that movement into the deepening of an energetic commitment, this is almost like the excitement and being able to be in a modality wherein like the work can now begin. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, that reshuffling or that reorganization, if you will, like some of that clumsiness energy, it feels like that breakthrough point, because that is that modality of an experience wherein again, you're carving into those pathworks in terms of identifying like what the shape of something is going forward. So for a lot of this energy right now, this is a lot of like seeds in the ground, if you will, is what I'm seeing, like a lot of preparation. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, a lot of this work that I'm seeing right now in separation is more of that, it's more of that energetic contemplation to a certain degree. There's a lot of this experience that we're seeing right now, wherein again, something that is occurring for energy and separation is redefining what it is that you are potentially seeking in an energetic partnership. And a lot of that has to do with potentially coming into energetic contact with counterpart energies in separation right now that feel like they're bringing forth towards the self a sense of intrinsic balance. And so we see even now, for a lot of that energy in separation, like that process of redefining within the self what an energetic commitment looks like. This is why there's almost that feeling of energetic contemplation that is occurring right now in those spaces and places, specifically and particularly because for a lot of that energy in this modality right now, that quality over quantity, is almost creating that feeling of energetic discernment to such a degree that's like it's almost creating that balance point that's almost creating it's like it's a lot of energy coming into that point of manifestation, because this is almost the energy that's like looking at partnership to a certain extent and saying better the qualitative partner. Better the partner that feels like they're in energetic balance, as opposed to just seeking partnership for the sake of partnership. So we see even now that there's either a lot of energy right now that is going through that point of energetic contemplation in terms of articulating and defining for themselves what that type of ideal partnership looks like. Or we are seeing and recognizing right now a lot of that energy that is in separation, that is trying to navigate forward in terms of what feels like is a tangible obstacle, to be able to navigate a breakthrough point instead of feeling the frustration and experiencing it. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Strength card and our Lovers card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Hermit in its reversal. So for a lot of the energy right now in separation, this is like a lot of energy right now that is navigating forward in that space or place of coming into, building into a point of energetic stability within the self, right? Because if these are experiences in the past wherein, again, you may have like, and why are we seeing this so much? Because again, a lot of the energy in separation is redefining what their energetic standards are. And what occurs, what is potentially occurring for some of the energy right now that is reframing some of those experiences from the past, wherein you feel that sense of redefining the energetic standards in relationality to partnership. Well, there could be, again, and this is where we see some of that work in healing, like working through, remember what we were talking about the last few days, those places of navigating self-doubt and then immediately bringing self-compassion towards it. We see even now, like that's a lot of the energy from the divine union coming towards the energy in separation, because there's a lot of this energy that is recognizing and healing that potentially if there were experiences in the past wherein you may have felt like your own energetic standards were lower than they are now, a lot of that energy navigating that work to a certain extent is recognizing and identifying that that ability or that anxiety in terms of coming into a point of solitude may have driven you forward into spaces of places that created a place where your own energetic standards were lower. Right? So a lot of this energy right now in separation is coming into that space or place of appreciating, of recognizing, of identifying, of doing that work in building a point of energetic stability within the self. Because for a lot of this energy, that ability to, again, what is occurring for a lot of the energy in separation, especially if this retrograde is bringing a lot of recall towards you, that's that moment of potentially looking and saying, like that desire of seeking something outward, looking at something from a place of need as opposed to a place of expansion. This is a lot of that energy that is recognizing how far you've energetically come, particularly if you're identifying that the reason those energetic standards were lower was because you were seeking something that was outside of the self. So we see even now that a lot of that energy that we're recognizing here is building into that sense of self-compassion via looking towards the past energetic expression of the self and seeing and recognizing those modalities wherein that need for fulfillment was coming through and being experienced as one that made you feel like you were in a lack mentality, as opposed to building into that space or place of energetic abundance. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this energy that is coming into divine union at this time, this is the opposite. This is the opposite that we're potentially seeing is occurring right now. Specifically and particularly in those expressions, in those modality points, in those experiences wherein these are the energies that are coming to recognize and build towards one another in a deeper way. This is the energy that is like working through, because I see even now, like some of these energies that are coming into divine union, like that proximity point, right? That proximity point is like redefining what that feeling of energetic solitude is. Because we see even now that for a lot of that energy coming into divine union, some of that clumsiness, like some of that clumsiness that we've been talking about, effectively is the result or in reactivity to having those modalities of being used to having some of that sensor space of being, having more of that energetic solitude, and learning to reorient your own feeling of energetic solitude in combination with an energetic counterpart. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of this work that we're seeing is occurring for the energy deep within the divine union frequency. You know, there's a lot of this work that's being processed within the divine union frequency, and this is like, listen, sometimes it's heavier work there. In the anxieties in relationality to the self, in the anxieties in relationality to the doubts and the fears. We've been seeing this. We've been seeing this for the last few days, right? This is one of those retrogrades that's like, it's bringing like better out than in to a certain extent. You know, there's like a lot of this work that's occurring right now in navigating those spheres of self-doubt, in navigating those spheres of uncertainty in the self. But you know, what is happening right now for a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency? You know, that ability of articulating what those doubts and fears are and feeling that sense of companionship along the way, having that moment of having a counterpart that says, I feel like that too. The thing that feels like it isolates you does not isolate you, it unifies you. That recognition point that the one thing that we all commonly share, the one thing that's within all of us, are those moments that we feel like we are most alone. Like that is that moment that you can recognize and identify that is that being able to articulate through that builds into a modality where, you know, it's something that is hard to let go of, but one that is continually like reaffirmed in the divine union frequency. Because what does the divine union frequency say over and over and over again? You are not alone. You are not alone. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between the Lovers in combination with the Three of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one? Come on, you want to come out? I see you. One card to clarify, please. A lot of this energy that's coming through right now in relationality to balance. I gotta say, I'm happy to see this. I'm happy to see this coming through right now within, like, considering the fact that we're hitting this retrograde period. So I had to articulate this pre-retrograde shadow period was hitting in a way that felt like it was the retrograde. Like it was like the retrograde that was happening before the retrograde, because we're seeing even now, there's a lot of this work that's occurring right now within this retrograde period in building into a point of reaching, like of working towards energetic balance. And for a lot of the energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, identifying, defining what that is. This is the energy that is building into a state or space of peace within the self. Because those anxieties, again, those fears, being able to articulate through them instead of react to them, what we're identifying and recognizing here is that's a lot of the energy that's like, you know, experiencing that point of energetic balance to a certain degree, because that is that modality, you know, wherein identifying that, feeling that point, this is like what the new standards are going forward. So for a lot of that energy moving deeper into divine union, like that consistency point, like identifying and recognizing that, like I want to say it's creating a feeling of energetic balance, Because for a lot of this energy, if this was energy deep within the divine union, that may have felt more volatility in points of solitude, might have felt more of that anxiety point, even in the definition of feeling the energetic balance, like seeing it, being able to observe it within the self, but not react to it. Like a lot of that energy right now is utilizing that energy and almost saying to themselves, how can I utilize that in a more productive way? What can I do to take that feeling of solitude and move it into a point of productivity, right? Because that's a lot of that energetic unpacking that's occurring there. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is just a lot of unpacking energy. Like this is just a lot of unpacking energy, because for a lot of the energy in that modality, recognizing and identifying, doing that work to a certain degree, this is the energy that was like working to take something that was intrinsic and moving it into something deeper because of the aspiration and desire to experience the messiness, right? So even now we see that for a lot of the energy experiencing that, feeling that energetic messiness, it's almost that state or space of feeling that amplification of delight to a certain degree, because that's that modality that again almost builds into a space or place of feeling the relief and release in those experiences that allows for some sense or space of breakthrough. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, a lot of this work in separation may be occurring as an energetic direct result of this is like I said, a lot of karmic clearing that's occurring right now for energy and separation, particularly and especially if these are energies in separation, wherein something about the recent energetic connections that were experienced during this pre-retrograde shadow period gave you some kind of insight and clarity in terms of what a balanced partnership feels like. A lot of this energy is doing that work in terms of redefining what that is for themselves, with a lot of that reaffirmation and commitment of not going back towards circumstances or situations in the past that you may have found yourself going towards because of the anxiety in terms of not being able to navigate the lack mentality from within. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, doing that work, it's like the work that starts within the self. And so we see even now, I'm seeing two different modalities that are potentially occurring for energy and separation right now. This is either energy that was navigating experiences wherein, again, they were recognizing a partnership where someone was moving towards them with a deep degree of intentionality, a lot of authenticity, a lot of energetic commitment. And a lot of this work that we're seeing that is occurring right now is feeling a lot like that sense of energetic breakthrough, specifically and particularly because if these are energies that are working to try to find a solution to an actual obstruction, to something that feels like it's an energetic hurdle, a lot of this energy is, again, in that modality of feeling that sense or space of saying to themselves, I can't energetically go back towards someone that either wasn't able to match that point of energetic patience or wasn't able to show that same sense of commitment and consistency and determination. While for a lot of the energy right now, even if these separation modalities are creating a state or space where it feels like the energetic obstacles are too difficult to circumnavigate, there's that moment of thanking the potential counterpart, because in that modality of thanking the counterpart, you're recognizing and defining and saying potentially towards them, you change something within me. You help me perceive something that I had not perceived before. And that's allowing for a lot of that an energetic catharsis point in terms of laying out what those standards are going forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Three of Pentacles in its reversal in combination with the Wheel of Fortune in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Ace of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now. Deep within, like in separation. Oh, there's a lot, I want to say there's a lot of emotionality here. There's a lot of emotionality that is potentially occurring. Specifically and particularly because if these are experiences wherein, again, something that you're receiving in the present is recontextualizing something that you experienced in the past, that can feel very emotionally overwhelming to a certain extent. That can create that modality of experience of feeling the emotional overwhelm that almost like it requires like, like it's giving me a little bit of that like better out than in to a certain extent, because for so much of this energy, like, there's a lot of release and relief here. But again, that sense of like a heart expansion, it almost can feel like it's very emotionally overwhelming, because for a lot of the energy within separation, it's the definition and the re-understanding of what it feels like, what those obstacles were. That feels like that karmic release to a certain extent. Like it's creating that like, and for some of like, I want to say a lot of it is that work in terms of like letting something energetically go. Like it's almost like that feeling of just like, like that clear, like that process of just allowing it to energetically clear. Because for a lot of the energy right now, that could be a moment where you feel that frustration arise, right? Like that moment of frustration, and then just saying, I'm going to let it go. Right? Because holding on to the frustration, it feels like it holds you back. So we see even now that a lot of that energy, doing that work to like ease out of any of those spaces, especially if you're looking back on past situations with a new set of, with a new optics. It's that easement, and that's that self-compassion, right? I told you that self-compassion that's coming through. That almost says like a lot of this energy and separation is almost going through those experiences and seeing and saying either one of two modalities, right? If these were experiences wherein, again, you're looking back on past circumstances and you're saying to oneself, I recognize that my energetic standards were not such that they are now, right? And that's the energy that looks towards the past and says, I was like that looking outside of the self created that ability to choose things that were not meeting my own energetic standards. We see that a lot of that energy and separation is saying, I release, like I forgive myself energetically for that. Because that's that modality of recognizing how far you've come now, in the sense that you recognize that you're holding different standards than who you were then. While for other aspects right now of the energy, if you're going through those modalities of seeing something in a way that it feels like there was more of those tangible obstacles that were brought forth, those modalities where it felt like nothing you could do was energetically enough, that experience of building into the standard point where even now in separation, you feel like you're receiving something that you didn't before. That's a lot of the energy that goes, I'm releasing I'm releasing that energetic resentment because I see something before that I couldn't see back then. Like that's the energy that almost immediately comes into that modality of healing in that space and place, because it starts with the forgiveness of the self. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, a lot of this energy coming into divine union, this is the energy that is working to articulate and redefine the energetic connection, if you will. Because for a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union, that ability of like coming into this space of feeling like that frustration point, it almost feels like that release and relief, specifically because this is the energy that recognizes and identifies and defines what that work is. Like a lot of this work is the energy that's feeling the delight of being able to navigate forward in such a way that you're able to see and anticipate and feel like what those things are. It's like that point of identifying and recognizing, this is the energy I told you that was like doing that work so that things could get messy. So even here we feel like there's a lot of that, like, there's a lot of that shifting that's occurring as they're moving deeper into divine union. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union, a lot of this work that we're potentially seeing that you're experiencing, it's a releasing of energetic frustration. It's navigating doubt and just trusting in the process to a certain extent, right? And a lot of that work is coming into energetic balance, specifically and particularly if these are modalities of experiencing something that would have been more difficult prior to being within the divine union. Like that ability of articulating through something as opposed to reacting towards it. Like a lot of that energy is almost creating the support towards, again, the counterparts, because it's being articulated in that way of saying, like, listen, I see you. I feel your frustration. I share it too. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Wheel of Fortune in its reversal in combination with the Seven of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Moon card in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy that is deep within the divine union frequency. A lot of this energetic healing that is occurring right now is in that relationality and in that space of holding space in terms of being able to articulate like what those truths are. We see even now like a lot of that energy, like look at this, what we're seeing even here is for a lot of that energy, navigating those spaces or places with like that would have previously created frustration or even volatility, but being able to bring a certain level or degree of patience towards it. Like a lot of this energy is just almost allowing themselves to feel something and experience it and articulate upon it instead of reacting to it. And a lot of that work that we're seeing is creating a healthy amount of like energetic balance to a certain degree, because this is the energy that again almost says to one another, it's all right to feel what you're energetically feeling. It's all right to feel like to have those points of frustration. And that ability of being able to like have that perception of the frustration that's seen and recognized, that's almost allowing a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency right now to ground in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, a lot of this work that we're seeing for the energy coming into divine union right now, it's a lot. We're seeing here that there's a lot of this work in terms of seeing the messy parts of someone, like recognizing and identifying what those messy parts are. And some of that energy right now, like there's a little bit of clumsiness that we're almost seeing here, specifically and particularly for so much of that energy navigating through those territories. We're seeing that even here, like that delight or that expectation point of identifying and recognizing that to a certain extent, it's allowing for a point of breakthrough. It's allowing for a point of like, you know, like that's that expansion point and being able to see another side of someone in a way that like, you know, it feels like it's energetically revealing. And even here we feel like that's the energy that like in that modality is almost savoring the ability of recognizing and identifying the counterpart in that fashion. Continuing for the energy right now in separation, there's a lot of energy right now in separation that's just building into those points of clarity, building into those points of understanding, building into those points of recognition. And a lot of that energy right now in separation, the clarity that's coming through right now in terms of seeing something in such a way, like it's almost allowing for that ability to like let go of the past, because a lot of this energy right now in separation is recognizing, like it's like the recognition point of their own previous limitations, right? That's why so much of this work here feels like it's energetically healing, because a lot of that energy that we're seeing that's coming through right now is clarity in separation. But what's valuable and vital about that is it's not just the clarity of the circumstances from the past, it's clarity of the self. it's recognition of the self and one's own like previous modalities that's almost allowing for that state or space of building into those energetic changes as you proceed forward from this point. So a lot of this, like I gotta say, a lot of this work that we're seeing that's occurring right now in separation is coming through by means and by which of like really like, and this is why we are talking about this, that that point of energetic clarity that is received or perceived via the energetic connections of the present. Like it's just like, it's almost like that sense of like having like one's own, like there's a lot of energy I'm seeing right now in separation that feels like their paths are being cleared to a certain extent because they're recognizing the spaces or places in the past where they may have moved off of that path inadvertently. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hermit card in its reversal and our Justice card in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our King of Wands in its upright. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation. We see even now, this is having a little different, this is having like a different impact depending on whether you're aligned to masculine or feminine energy. For a lot of the masculine energy in this modality right now, I want to say that recognition point, that ability, like we're seeing even here, this is a lot of the masculine energy in separation that is like, I want to say it's like there's a lot of that channel, like there's a lot of this like modality right now. Again, it's quality over quantity. So if these are spaces or places or experiences in separation where in the past masculine would have just kind of moved towards anything to move away from that feeling of being alone with oneself, that modality of kind of like seeking outside of the self, there's a lot of this work that we're seeing that is occurring right now for masculine energy in being able to channel that and focus that in ways that feels like it is energetically productive. So we see even now that for a lot of that masculine energy, doing that work to a certain extent is like, it's almost allowing the masculine energy, instead of becoming reactive to that feeling of isolation or to that feeling of internal solitude, allowing for that point of productivity, allowing for that point of building forth in such a way of the expression of it. So we see even now that this could be a lot of the masculine energy that's doing that work in relationality to planning, building forth upon a plan, identifying and recognizing. Again, we saw that if these were hurdles that felt like they were insurmountable here, this is a lot of that masculine energy that is like recognizing and identifying if there's something here that can bring balance towards a situation or circumstance, even if those tangible obstacles are causing some kind of like difficulty in an energetic connection. So we see even now like this is, and for feminine energy, this is more of that modality that we're seeing that's being experienced for feminine, wherein we identify that for a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now, you know, there could be a lot of that. There could be a lot of communication that's potentially occurring right now. But what's nice about this is I'm seeing that for a lot of the energy of feminine in separation, it's more the discernment in relationality to whether conversations are productive. Like I'm just seeing that to a certain degree. There's a lot of this work that we are recognizing and identifying that is like, you know, the encapsulation point in terms of what feels like it's productive versus what feels like it's not. And even here, you know, we see that for a lot of that feminine energy, like that ability of like navigating and articulating upon what brings balance, like this is the feminine energy in separation that's maintaining or holding their own energetic standards because they themselves are also doing that work in terms of navigating and processing those spaces or places wherein again those, you know, that feeling of trying to move away from oneself may have moved you towards places or spaces that feels like they lowered your own energetic standards. So for masculine and feminine energy, and there's like this is productive, like this feels like this, and this is some of that retrograde energy that is potentially like, you know, again, creating innovations, creating new perspectives, because I see even now there may be a lot of that articulation upon new perspectives within the energy and separation. While for masculine and feminine energy that of coming into divine union right now, a lot of this energy is like the articulation or the anticipation of some of those plans that are being laid forward, because we see even now that one of the things that we're recognizing for energy coming into divine union right now is that ability of, I want to say, that ability of seeing that ability of recognizing that. Like this is the ability, this is the energy that was coming into divine union, holding on to something that was energetically intrinsic, allowing for that place or space of energetic breakthrough. So we're seeing even now that for a lot of the energy in that experience, in that modality, even if it's energetically clumsy, we're seeing that it's productive, because it's almost like that's the energy that even in the modality of redefining what solitude feels like in those experiences, it feels like a point of personal expansion. Because for a lot of that energy, one of the things that's being identified and recognized, if these were spaces and places wherein one felt you couldn't find that sense of easement of solitude via the energy towards the counterpart, a lot of this energy is feeling that sense of productivity here. Like it's almost like that moment of feeling the release and relief of energetic delight to a certain extent, specifically and particularly because if this is the energy that was worried about moving something into a deeper place, it was going to cause an energetic fracture point. This is almost the energy that's experiencing that and feeling that sense of like easement and relief and saying, oh good, that hasn't happened. That didn't happen again. Like that hasn't happened again. Because again, I need to stress here that that's because so much of this energy that's moving deeper into divine union, it's not trying to fix something that wasn't well by raising the volume of it, right? This is the energy that was already feeling the value and capacity of what it is that they experience. So moving into that and raising the energetic volume, it just creates that expansion point, and it feels robust because it just feels like, it's more of that. Continuing to get clarification for the energy deep within the divine union frequency right now. This is having a little bit of a different impact on masculine and feminine energy. And a lot of this work that we're energetically seeing right now, there's emotionality here. Like for feminine right now, there's a lot of navigating, like listen, a lot of the path work for the feminine right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, is recognizing and identifying the emotional overwhelm of experienced in moments of energetic frustration. Like a lot of that work of the feminine is like navigating that territory of experiencing things that feel like they're energetically overwhelming to a certain extent. But in that moment, coming into a modality of balance, like almost just allowing oneself to feel the emotional experience, like feel the emotionality of something. And instead of becoming overly volatile, instead of becoming overly emotive, just allowing oneself to inhabit that space, potentially even via the communication with the counterpart, it's almost creating that place of energetic easement. And while we see here that for a lot of the energy of the counterpart, the feminine navigating with the counterpart, having that ability of being able to articulate towards the masculine in that way, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Having that expansion point, having that become a point of productivity. Like a lot of the energy right now within the divine union is channeling that frustration into productive spaces or places. And that's a little bit of the feminine taking, again, a note from the masculine in terms of like feeling like the, again, the over emotionality towards something doesn't change anything. The only thing that changes something is action. And so for a lot of the feminine energy within the divine union frequency, a lot of that work of the feminine recognizing and identifying and saying, feeling an overwhelm of emotion about something doesn't change something. The thing that changes it is changes. We see even now, like, that's a lot of the feminine energy within the divine union that's becoming more productive in those spaces and places by, again, moving that frustration point in productive ways. While for masculine, a lot of this work that's potentially happening right now within the divine union frequency is helping, like, is building into the state or space of, again, emotional, like, this is a masculine energy that is feeling energetically safe to be emotional, specifically because we see that for a lot of the masculine energy, seeing a feminine energy be in a space or place of over emotionality, but being able to articulate through it instead of react to it. This is almost the masculine energy feeling safe enough to be able to articulate towards feminine in this way, because again, that's the masculine energy that is recognizing and seeing the energetic or emotional resilience that the feminine brings forth, that becomes that space or place of the masculine being able to give back to the feminine in such a way that they can articulate and talk through an energetic hurdle instead of creating one between one another. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're seeing right now for the energy coming into divine union is built upon or based upon those spaces and places wherein masculine and feminine are coming into that modality of being able to have that sense of coming to know one another in a better way. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Justice card in its upright in combination with our Ace of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Death card in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency. Like a lot of this work right now, it feels like it's energetically healing. Specifically and particularly because we're recognizing that for so much of that energy doing that work, identifying those energetic limitations, working through those energetic frustrations, navigating those territories, as it were. This is what's allowing for these points of productivity, because that we're seeing even here for so much of that energy moving forward in that way. This is the energy that is redefining and recognizing that's the energy that's feeling like some of that emotional overwhelm, but not responding to it. Almost like it's creating that point of energetic balance, specifically and particularly because this is the energy that is not becoming overly adaptive in relationality to emotionality, right? This is the energy that's feeling a lot of that emotional overwhelm, but in the experience of not changing through it, being able to experience it and feel it and not feel like it's energetically devastating. This is a lot of the energy within the divine union that's finding that point of balance, specifically and particularly due to those circumstances or situations wherein you recognize and define that you can see those changes from within, because you can almost you can observe them happening as you're experiencing them. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, a lot of this energy coming into divine union right now is built upon or based upon this is the energy that is feeling the relief and release of moving into a deeper energetic connection. And what happens, look at this, what happens in the experience where you move into a deeper energetic connection, and the hope and aspiration is being able to move it into something deeper without it changing. This is a lot of the energy that's done so and is feeling the relief and release in having that change occur and not experiencing or not feeling that point of an energetic change. Like, this is the energy that is effectively delighting in the fact that something hasn't changed, because this isn't the energy that was trying to move into a deepening energetic commitment for the hope that something would change that was not ideal. This is the energy that was trying to move into a deepening energetic connection because they were hoping that that change would not occur. So we see even now, like, there's a lot of that easement that's happening in that modality because they're going, whew, like it's a little bit of that, because it's like, oh, I still, like, it's still there. We did, like, the intrinsicness, the power of it is still present. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, a lot of this work that we're seeing in separation right now is that modality and recognizing and feeling the security in terms of how far you've come this far. Because for a lot of this energy right now, like the recognition point, being able to perceive something in a different way and moving forward far enough that your own perception on something that occurred has shifted to such a degree that you're building into a sense of understanding, potentially in spaces or places that were requiring almost that over-exhaustion point in what you needed to give energetically in order to receive in some kind of partnership dynamic. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, because this is occurring across masculine and feminine. It's like a breath of fresh air, right? Because some of the energy is looking back, and there's two different modalities I'm seeing here. This is either some energy that's looking back on past experiences and saying to themselves, there was nothing I could do to change that. That was the nature of the relationship, right? If this is energy that's looking at something from the past and saying nothing I could do could change it, this is the energy saying the reason I couldn't do anything to change it is because that was the nature of the relationship. So we either have a lot of energy that's recognizing and identifying that, or we have a lot of energy that is healing in the modality of and the energy that they're coming towards right now, that is being mindful and saying to one another, I'm not asking you to change. I'm not telling you to change further than you should. In fact, like, there's a lot of that energetic. There may even be like the big push I'm seeing here that's happening right now for a lot of the energy that is in separation is almost some energy that says, I want to change to be able to facilitate a connection towards you. And some energy going, I don't want you to do that. And someone saying, I want to. Like, and I have to stress this. It's the energy that's almost doing that because there's the recognition point of someone saying, I'm not asking you to do that. And someone saying, and that's why I want to do it, because I recognize that your compassion for me is such that you would never demand it of me. Continuing to get clarification between our Ace of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Moon card in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now we love to see it. We've got here our 10 of Pentacles in its upright. Now, masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency. A lot of this work that we're seeing right now, deep within the divine union frequency. I mean, well, let's start with the energy in separation. For the energy in separation, there's like, I just keep seeing, there's a lot of clarity that's potentially coming through right now. But the beauty of this clarity, and again, there's a lot of that feeling of the energy, like moving away from something further. I like to point this out. If the further you move away from something, the worse it looks. That usually is a good sign that you are moving in the right direction, right? Like, there's a little bit of that effect here. So we see even now that a lot of that energy, being able to do that, go through that energetic process, right? That, like, it's like the energy that's like stepping away from something, and the further they step away from it, the more they can understand. There's a lot of energy right now during this retrograde period that is having a little bit of that clarity in relationality to perspective. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, experiencing that, recognizing that, and then feeling the release and relief in terms of how far you've energetically come. Like, it's an easement point. We're just seeing this here. It feels like an energetic easement point to a certain extent, because for so much of that energy, you know, it feels like it's moving you in the directionality that feels like it's right, or what feels like it's best for you. And so for a lot of the energy right now in separation, that ability of doing so, that ability of inhabiting that space, that ability of identifying that to a certain degree, like it's a lot of it's a lot of heat. And this is why, but it's emotional. I can see that there's a lot of emotionality for a lot of the energy experiencing this, because if these are experiences wherein in the past it felt like nothing you could do was ever enough, looking back and saying, well, maybe that was the nature of the energetic relationship. Like maybe that was just the nature of it. Like that's a lot of the energy that is coming into that space or place of release and relief to a certain extent. Because that's the energy that's almost having that perception of the difference between saying, if you had the feeling that nothing you did was energetically enough and everything you gave was never enough, then that's almost the experience of identifying and saying perhaps that's the quality and nature of something that you were moving away from, as opposed to a failure point within your own self. So we see a lot of the energy having a bit of that breakthrough point that's allowing for that sense of easement. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're seeing is occurring right now, coming into divine union, is built upon those spaces and places wherein a lot of this energy right now is navigating forward in such a way that we see even now, like there's clumsiness here. There's that moment of like, again, there's a lot of release and relief that a lot of the energy within the divine union is potentially feeling at this time. Because if these are circumstances or situations wherein you felt like that anxiety in terms of moving something into something else, and then feeling the anxiety that even in that moment of taking something that was perfect and trying and having to deepen an energetic connection, having that anxiety of something that would change, but almost again, not feeling that change occur. It almost feels like the expansion point of it. A lot of this energy right now in separation is almost feeling like that feeling of like a breath of fresh air, because something did not change and there's just more of it. While for masculine and feminine energy that is deep within the divine union frequency right now, a lot of this work navigating deep within the divine union frequency has to do specifically and particularly with circumstances or scenarios wherein we are recognizing, and there's a lot of work that I'm seeing right now in relationality to a lot of this work that we're seeing, that it's frustration. There's a bit of that. There's a little bit of that frustration, but I see even now that whatever that frustration is, having that ability or having that space or place to be able to articulate upon it, a lot of this energy is finding ways of taking that, like taking those experiences and moving them forward into spaces of productivity. Like a lot of this energy is taking any of that frustration and just channeling it into productive spaces and places right now. There's a lot. I have to say, this Mercury retrograde, I'm going to say it right now, I feel like there's going to be potentially a lot of breakthroughs that are occurring during it. Because I just kind of see that there's a lot of the energy that's just like not allowing oneself to become reactive, just allowing yourself to kind of innovate through it. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our King of Wands and its upright in combination with our Death card in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Seven of Wands. Yeah, this is a lot of the energy right now that is deep within the divine union frequency that is like, I want to say, there's a lot of this work right now that's like, like, do you see this? Do you see this energetic overwhelm point? Like, do you see this energetic overwhelm point? This is that pushback energy. This is that pushback energy. Like, this is that energy. This is that energy that like feels like that stoppage point and says like no, like pushes forward to a certain extent, because this is the energy that says, that's almost saying to themselves within divine union, you know, if something feels like it's hard, maybe you've kind of hit the moment that you have to put all of your energy towards it. Because sometimes you feel that limitation point. Like, there's a difference between feeling a limitation point in terms of the wrong direction. Sometimes it's the hardest right before you push through something, right? Right before you crack it, like right through it. Sometimes you feel the most expanse of that energetic resistance to a certain extent. So a lot of this energy that is doing that work right now is feeling the frustration point of the energetic heaviness, but letting it almost energize them to like, you know, push a little bit harder to a certain extent. So that's like a lot of the message that's coming through right now with this retrograde, which is like, you know, like it's like you know, it's a lot of that energy that says like, you know, the ability to succeed is not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up, right? You know what I mean? Like, how many times whoever gets back up. So it's a lot of that work that we're seeing a little bit here. So even now we see that a lot of that energy within the divine union is like, you know, picking, like lifting themselves up to a certain degree and saying like that is the strength of that frequency of like, it's like, you know, it's helping you kind of learn that point of energetic resilience, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming, and for like masculine, I feel like masculine is giving this energetic lesson to feminine, but the thing with the masculine that's receiving it is that masculine isn't allowing themselves to move, like is not allowing themselves to move off of their own energetic standards in the process. That's a lot of the unpacking that's happening for the masculine energy in that modality right now. For feminine, it's just going through that energetic process. For masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're seeing to a certain extent right now, this is the energy, I'm telling you even now, like this is the energy. This is the energy that even if something feels energetically clumsy, there's relief and release that is occurring here, because what we're effectively seeing is happening to a certain extent is the sense that the energy was feeling some kind of anxiety point, that if something was intrinsically good, but then they felt that need to kind of like move it further. Like this is almost the energy that was like reluctant or resistant to moving deeper into an energetic connection for fear of like damaging what was existent between it. But this is the energy that it feels like they've successfully done that. And even in the messiness, it feels like it's positive. This is a lot of the energy coming into divine union that's like feeling that sense of like excitement in relationality to the direction that they're moving towards. Because this is the energy that's almost saying like the work's begun and we're here for it, right? While for the energy right now in separation, this is I'm getting here like a lot of karmic closure that's potentially coming about right now. And I keep seeing one of two different modalities that are effectively occurring in this experience, which is either, again, those modalities where, and again, there's something about some tangible obstacles here. There's something about some practicality. There's a lot of energy in separation right now that may be looking at some kind of like dynamics in a partnership and saying there's nothing practical about this. Like there's nothing practical. But that's the energy that is, again, in that zone of navigating an authentic connection that doesn't feel like it's energetically practical. In that modality, suddenly anything that felt like it was very practical, but there was always something that felt like it created an energetic conflict point. Like just energetically cleared to a certain extent. So we see even now that these are either the energies that are recognizing and identifying that the only thing that's intervening in a deep energetic connection is something practical. But even in those modalities, we see here that there's an authentic connection that's effectively taking root, and someone saying to the other, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for showing me. Thank you for helping me raise my own energetic standards. There's still a lot of deep energetic connections here, and there may be some energy that's like really trying to like wrap their head around trying to make something work even through less than ideal circumstances. Or this is energy right now that is like they're doing that work to try to figure out something that would work. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Death card in its reversal in combination with our Five of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Six of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. You know, one of the gifts that I feel like is coming through is recognizing and identifying like a lot of those, and I want to say a lot of those unhealed karmic connections. Like there's a lot of this energy right now in separation that even in the modality of experiencing something that like has those tangible hurdles and you're doing your best to navigate them, immediately clarifies those spaces and places wherein again you may have had an unhealed karmic connection that was, again, what do we define an unhealed karmic connection as? An unhealed karmic connection is something that does not feel like an equal energetic distribution. An unequal energetic distribution creates that lack mentality. It feels like you're either overgiving or something isn't enough. So when we're in those experiences or when we're navigating those, we see that for energetically, it can feel like a difficult connection because the energetic requirements are thus that it doesn't feel like it creates a sense of harmony within us. It feels like it creates a space of energetic disruption. So we see even now that there's a lot of energy that is moving into a modality where they're feeling that sense of balance, even in less than ideal circumstances, that is suddenly regulating and clarifying an energetic connection in the past that was requiring an uneven energetic distribution. So we see even now there's a lot, that's what I mean, a lot of the energy right now, it's not even the fact that you're letting go of an energetic connection in that way, it's understanding it. It's recognizing and seeing it in such a way that is helping you, again, move forward in productive ways because it's almost helping you identify and recognize the quality and characteristic of the connection via the allowing you to have a point of energetic breakthrough in relationality to asking oneself, do you want to inhabit a space or place that requires an uneven energetic distribution? Or are you looking for something that builds into a point of energetic balance? So we see even now like a lot of that energy doing that work. It's like it creates a sense of peace. It creates a sense of recognition because it helps define what feels like it can actually be healed or what can be changed versus what needs to be accepted in relationality to what it is. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're seeing to a certain extent, a lot of this work that we're identifying is feeling like that modality of, again, this is a lot of the energy that's like coming into a deepening state of healing in the same exact modality. Because if these are energies that, again, moved into some kind of experience or moved into some kind of partnership in the past with, again, the hope or the expectation of something that wasn't necessarily balanced, but said to themselves, I hope if I move it into a deepening energetic connection, maybe something will change. Maybe something will be made right by deepening that energetic connection. A lot of the energy navigating that territory, having that modality of experiencing that, And then even here, like this is the energy moving into something that feels like it was intrinsically good, and then feeling the anxiety about something changing. This is the energy that goes, I hope nothing changes because something is so positive. This is a lot of, and then experiencing that relief when they feel like that sense of like, again, no, it didn't change. Just raise the volume on something that was already good. Like a lot of this energy is, again, clearing a lot of that past experience by the recognition point of what wasn't energetically working never starts to work if you raise the volume of it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of this work deep within the divine union frequency has to do with a lot of inner child healing right now. A lot of inner child healing. If these were modalities and experiences where, again, why is all this stuff about the self-doubt popping up? Why is all this stuff, if you're in a healthy energetic connection, what's all this like negative self-talk? What's all this like doubting oneself? Where's all this coming from? It's coming from old traumas. It's coming from old wounds. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, unpacking some of that stuff, like this is a lot of that energy that's seeing those doubts, seeing those uncertainties cropping up. And this is the energy almost saying to one another, like, that's okay. Like that's you've been carrying that wound for a long time. It's okay that and like this is almost the energy that says, it's not your fault that you're energetically carrying that wound. You just have to have some self-compassion for yourself in the process of it, and not to be overly hard on yourself in it, right? That's how we heal. Some wounds, I gotta say this, some wounds we don't heal. Some wounds we acknowledge. Some wounds we recognize and we say, and this is what the counterparts are saying, that's an old wound that's coming up. We're gonna take care of that. We're gonna continue to try to heal that. Final card for today's spread between our 7 of Wands in combination with our 6 of Cups in its reversal. So long as we don't subject each other to them, okay? So long as we don't subject each other to them. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Wands in its reversal. So here we even see masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency. A lot of this work that we're seeing even here, a lot of this emotional unpacking, like a lot of that work, it's having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy. For a lot of the feminine energy, again, building into that space of feeling the emotionality, channeling it into productive spaces and places, right? Not subjecting others to the emotions, but being able to take them and channel them into places and spaces of productivity. For a lot of the masculine energy right now, doing that same energetic work to a certain degree, recognizing and identifying those spaces and places wherein you doubt your own self, you doubt your own ability. But what is occurring in those experiences deep within the divine union frequency? A lot of that energy is observing and saying to one another, that's something that you carry. That's something that was put there by someone else. That's something that we'll continue to try to heal to a certain extent, because this is the energy that when they experience the wound in themselves, they work not to subject others to it. Healing comes in many forms, and often some wounds, I gotta say this, some wounds cannot be healed. How do we heal a wound that cannot be healed? We make it our firm commitment not to subject others to it. So we see even now that a lot of that energy within the divine union is navigating those spaces and places in terms of recognizing and identifying what feels like it can be energetically healed versus what feels like it needs to be carried. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, this is a lot of the energy that is feeling the release and relief of moving into a deepening of an energetic commitment, wherein I'll tell you even now, this is the energy that goes oh, and this is why the retrograde period now is going to feel positive, because this is the energy that's like, oh, good, nothing has changed. like, oh, goody, nothing has changed, because that ability of maintaining the intrinsic stability of the energetic connection through something that felt like it was energetically volatile, and now experiencing a modality wherein you can kind of let the work begin. And you're still feeling that moment of something exactly maintaining the degree it was prior to doing that work. A lot of that feels like that point of abundance or excitement, simply because it doesn't create that feeling that something is energetically like needs to be changed or needs to be fixed. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, a lot of this energy right now in separation is just doing a lot, and again, doing a lot of work in healing from a lot of those past experiences, wherein you may have, like, you may be looking and articulating upon an energetic connection where you may have felt a lot of like connection towards someone, but identified that the energetic distribution of what was being given and what was being received didn't feel like it was in ideal alignment. When that isn't in ideal alignment, it creates spaces or places that can feel energetically disruptive, often creates that pull energy in us, specifically because it is that feeling of trying to create balance. But what is a lot of the energy doing to help navigate and heal from those experiences in the past? There's the asking of the question as to whether those energies were working towards balance in the first place, or if there was something about those experiences that felt like that was the energetic requirement that was required in order to be able to maintain it. So we see even now like a lot of that energy having that breakthrough in that experience, in recognizing and identifying the quality and nature of a relationship as opposed to the connection one feels towards it. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is King of Pentacles in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy, deep within the divine union frequency. Now, in separation, a lot of this energy right now, you know, there's like a lot of this energy that may be going through those experiences of the past. And when you have that observation point, it raises the question, why? And again, I need to stress this for a lot of the energy experiencing that right now. You know, the recognition point as to why something was the way it was is non-material, right? As in relationality to recognizing the why is immaterial to that in that extent. It doesn't necessarily, because when you obsess over the energetic why, it moves you away from understanding just the quality and nature of a circumstance or situation. So we see even now that maybe a lot of that feminine energy going through those experiences of the past and trying to emotionally unpack them, right? But the bigger question to recognize and identify in those spaces or places as to like the intentionality of a circumstance or situation as opposed to what was experienced. I'm going to say it a little, it's a little bit, it's almost like it's a little immaterial to a certain extent, because you have to ask oneself if it feels energetically productive. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is, you know, while for masculine energy, that same modality that may be happening, that feeling of energetic frustration, if that was something that you yourself experienced, you know, even here we see that for a lot of the masculine energy, you know, that frustration point, that upset, like that moment of feeling energetically upset, like, you know, that's that moment that you can say to oneself, like, the easement is in the fact that something is energetically in the past if it created something in you that made you feel that imbalance in the first place. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, like a lot of this work right now that is potentially occurring has to do in relationality to, again, building upon those experiences in the past, the difference between trying to energetically fix something as opposed to feeling like something is just right. It creates for masculine energy a little bit of that emotional overprotectedness to a certain extent. We see it even here, because for a lot of the masculine energy, and I told you we saw some of that earlier this week, because for a lot of that masculine energy, like coming into those spaces of places of feeling like, It's like your own priorities have shifted to such a degree. For a lot of the energy, this is a lot of the energy of masculine that's changing their own perspective in relationship, specifically because of the recognition point of not trying to change something, but almost coming into that modality of trying to maintain or preserve something of importance. While for a lot of the feminine energy right now, and for feminine energy, there's that same feeling. Like a lot of the feminine energy is like clearing those experiences in the past, wherein the feminine felt like they were like, this is a lot of that energy that's looking towards partnership now from a space or place of trying to like work to maintain as opposed to trying to change. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of this anxiety, a lot of these fears have to do with some kind of modality of navigating those inner child wounds. And it does have a different impact on masculine and feminine. For masculine, again, potentially that experience or those modalities of recognizing that what you do will always be enough for the person that's that's in that modality of receiving it. Like a lot of the masculine energy is working through those experiences from the past or even from childhood where it may have felt like nothing that you did was ever energetically enough. While for a lot of the feminine energy right now, working through those experiences wherein again, those you have to understand that when you come into those modalities and feeling like, what you're doing doesn't feel like it's enough, it often points to the fact that you're holding the energetic standards outside of the self to a certain degree. So there's a lot of unpacking that's occurring in those spaces and places. Building into a point of stability right now is key. Making sure that you feel that stability and working through that center. Because I see even now, like this is like these retrograde periods, they can feel destabilizing. They can feel triggering. But don't let yourself navigate through the trigger. Let that trigger become a breakthrough. Perceive the trigger and let it become a breakthrough. That is our daily collective read for the day. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind there are two things I do not read for here on this app. Those are pregnancy and medical. Happy to give insight on anything in a private reading. Please keep in mind, sorry, I got distracted. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Please also remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website, so I encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple updates prior to us moving into personal readings for the day. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who attended our Empress class last month. We are going to be proceeding into our Emperor class. That class will be held on August 14th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. All you need to do if you would like to become a part of that class program is head over to my Substack, gracestrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription to my Substack will grant you access to any of the live classes. You'll also have access to all the course materials and recordings for any of the previous classes. So if you're just joining us, you'll have ample opportunity to catch up before our next class. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we are learning. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a one-on-one mentorship reading with me wherein I will assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage going forward. One of the things I really tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. So thank you if you've already enrolled, and I look forward to potentially seeing you at our next class. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to be able to stay up to date on any new offerings, any new services, any new events. I post my newsletter there, which will give you an update on my weekly live schedule. You'll also get updated on any giveaways. Speaking of giveaways, congratulations to the winner of our July giveaway. It is listed up on my Substack. We are now in the midst of our August giveaway. If you would like to get on the list to win a free tarot reading with me, simply head over to the link tree in my bio. There is a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that survey will grant you access, entry into the giveaway. But if you'd like to increase your chances of winning, go ahead and forward that survey to a friend, because when I pull the winner of the survey, I will be giving away a free reading not only to the winner, but also to the individual who referred them. Finally, I want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I have a few new offerings. First and foremost, mentorship classes. These can be focused on the area and subject of your choosing. I can choose, and you can choose to take individual classes or sign up for monthly classes. That's 4 45-minute classes, one per month over the space of a month. Also, for my clients seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to be offering weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings at a discount so that you can stay more consistent on your own journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and receiving these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.